we're making another video because we had some feedback that it would be nice for our super easy pocket face masks to have ties to accommodate people who are having a hard time finding the elastic for the other ones that we made, and also to have this little nose piece that can accommodate a little twisty tie or a piece of wire, a pipe cleaner, or just some jewelry wire, so that they stay more snug around your nose. Okay, so that's what we're gonna make. And here's the supplies that we need. Same as before, you need 2 pieces of fabric cut to 10 inches by 7 inches. This time you need a 3.5 inch length of ribbon. This one is, I don't know, maybe 1/3 of an inch wide, but you could probably do different widths would be okay. We're using cotton yarn to make the ties, because I think I was trying to find out something that would be easy to work with and also easy to find. And then I just wanted to show you guys, this is the filtration material that you can put in the pocket, and it is heat resistant batting that you would use for like making a pot holder. Okay, so there we go. Let's get started. Okay, we're starting on the back filter side, the pocket side, and we're gonna do 2 fairly deep turns of the fabric to make our pocket first. We've got our needle all the way over to the left, and we're gonna sew a straight stitch seam straight down the left side of this hem here. No need to backstitch. And then we're gonna do the other side. These are the short sides of the rectangles that I'm sewing. And I'm folding it over about 1/2 inch, and then over again about 1/2 inch, maybe even a little bit more than that. And again, the needle is all the way over to the left of my sewing machine foot, so I can go right down the left-hand side of this seam. Okay, now just like on the first video, we're going to take the second rectangle, we're going to go backside to backside, back of the fabric to the back of the fabric, and centering the pocket, the one we just seamed, kind of right about in the middle of the other rectangle. You see that? And we're going to seam a really shallow seam on this side, so like about 1/4 inch in. And I'm gonna switch my stitch so that my needle moves over to the middle of my sewing machine foot, so it goes closer to the edge. And also no need to backstitch on this one. Now this time, instead of doing that same seam on the other side, I'm gonna go ahead and flip and do what I now know is called a French seam, which I did not know before, but now I do. You flip it over, and you're gonna hide that seam that you just made inside this part. I like to sew it with the pocket part towards me so I know where to start and stop. And I kind of roll it a little bit and smush it down so it's a little more flat. And we're gonna move the needle, I move my needle back over to the left of the foot because this is another, a deeper seam than our really short little seam that we did for the last one. And this one you can backstitch a few stitches to lock it in. Now, the reason why we did those two seams, why we did one whole side first, is because on this, I'm gonna add the nose piece that those healthcare professionals said, please, please, please put nose pieces on these masks so we can get them closer and tighter to our faces so less germs can get in. So they want the nose piece on the liner side, but not sandwiched in between the two pieces, on the side where it's gonna touch your nose. It's gonna lay flat on your nose. And this piece is just a little piece of ribbon is what I'm using. I'm sure you could come up with some other thing if you don't have a piece of ribbon. And I like to open it up and just kind of center it on there. And then I like to use a pin on this because that ribbon is kind of slippery. And so you're gonna sew right down the very edge, as close as you can, just a straight stitch, as close as you can down the edge of this ribbon, so that you have plenty of space to put your wire or twisty tie or pipe cleaner in there. And you're gonna backstitch at the beginning and the end of these stitches so that it holds, locks it in. Side. And then you're going to go and do the same thing on the other side of the ribbon. Locking it in first. Locking it in again at the end. Got more strings. Okay. Got this other string here. Alright, so we have our ribbon on there now. And now we're going to sew the other side of our pocket on. So we're back to backside facing backside, and just kind of make sure it's flat and lined up. Line it up there. And we're moving our needle back to the middle so we can make that really shallow little seam here again. And no need to lock it in. Okay, now, we're going to flip it inside out and do the French seam on the other side. Thanks, Angela and Deborah, for telling me it's a French seam. So moving back to the left side of the, moving the needle back to the left side of the foot. So we can go deeper here. So we fully hide that seam on the other side. And we're back stitching at the front and the end of this, this line. Now, flip it right side out. And we can see that we have, we're 2/3 of the way there, I'd say. We have a pocket going through. Our mask is gonna rest on our face like this with the nose piece up against our nose. And now we need to make our ties, because this one is going to tie around the back of your head. The reason for that is because lots of people were telling me that they were having a very hard time finding the elastic, that kind of string elastic that I was using, or cord, elastic cord, like 2mm elastic cord. So what I'm going to use this time is cotton yarn. I think you could probably use acrylic yarn as well, but you don't want something that's super, super thick, because we're going to use the same trick where we encase it in the seam on the edge, on these edges, and use it to cinch up the edges. It makes it super quick and easy, and we don't have to put any darts. But what we have to do first is turn this yarn into a rope by making a twisty twirly. And we're making a single strand twisty twirly, which means that my daughter Lulin and I are going to each hold one end of this rope, and we're going to twist it in the same direction that it's already twisted, and we'll show you how to do that. Take your rope, you take 2 fathoms of your yarn, and then we're going to make a twisty twirly out of it. I'm going to get my daughter Lulin to help me with the twisty twirly. Okay, you get your string and you each hold on one end of it, and you twist in the same direction that your yarn is already twisted. So that means I'm twisting to my right and Lulin is twisting to her right, because that's the way our yarn is spun. And you twist and twist and twist it until it feels super twisted. And then once it feels super twisted, you walk towards each other and you kind of step your way up and it all twists together to make a very nice rope. There you go. Tie off the end, and this will make 2 ties on your mask. Now you just make another one. Okay, now we are going to sew your ties that you just made onto your mask. So we've got our mask here. We're gonna turn it, be working on the ends. You're gonna put your rope that you just made, you're gonna fold it over one time, and your rope is gonna be encased in this edge. So you don't wanna sew over the rope at this point. You just want it to be along the very edge, sitting in there. So there's the lump at the very outside edge of this seam, and all your loose ends are sewn in there. Oh, and the reason why you don't want it to be encased is because we're going to use it to cinch up the edge like this right here in a minute. Okay, so let's sew this down. And I've got my needle again moved all the way over to the left of my foot because I'm going to sew right down the very left side of this seam. So I have plenty of space in there for my rope to pull through and cinch it up. And I am going to lock down at the beginning and end since this is final stitches here. Stitches. Okay, snip these little threads off if I can get them. Okay, now notice I did not worry about whether or not my ties were even, because at this point you're gonna cinch them down so that it gathers up, and when you do that you can make them even, and they should be plenty long, giving whoever you give this to, whoever's using it, the opportunity to make it the right size for themselves. Now I'm gonna stitch right along here. Let me show you with my scissors. Right along here, back and forth like 4 times with a zigzag stitch to hold this tie in there so it doesn't come out. So I'm gonna switch to a zigzag stitch. And just go back and forth over that whole casing part 3 or 4 times. So forward and backward. Forward and backwards. And then we're going to do the same thing on the other side of where we gathered it up, cinched it up tight, and just sew back and forth so that we lock our tie in there. one side, finished. See, it's starting to look like a face mask. And then you just do the other side exactly the same. Encase your rope in to the seam, into the rolled seam. Fold it over once. Fold it over again. Rope on the outside edge. Making sure we're not sewing over the rope yet, so that it slides through to gather it all up. Doing a few back stitches. Whoops, forgot to switch it to a straight stitch. Ooh. Let's try that again. Okay, straight stitch. Switch back to the right stitch, people. I don't think I didn't catch my rope, so we should be good. It should still slide through there to gather it up. So here we go. Even them out, hold the two ends. There we go. Gather it up. Nice and gathered. And throw a little zigzag over that to make it nice and strong in there so it doesn't come apart. Back. Time. Oops. Have to cut off my strings. I like to do it as I go, otherwise I lose track of all of them. And locking in our last stitch here. There was a spider crawling on my foot just now. Still with a zigzag stitch. Back one more time. Okay. And let's see what this looks like here. All right, here we go. We've got our pocket. We've got our nose piece. We've got our ties. We've got our, our filter material, and you just kind of stuff that in there. Get it kind of flat. In there, should fit. The filter material, I don't know if I told you before, I cut it to 5 by 7 inches is just about the right size, and you can kind of change that if you need to. And there you go. On it goes. Over and under the ears. Tie it up. You're good to go. Thanks.